When you're thinking about a client that's upsizing, what does that mean to you?
It's a lot of things really, but for me, it's mostly what their needs are moving forward and for the longer term. So we know that with the condos that we help our clients buy, when they're first time buyers, likely will not be their last move.
Right.
And so, it all depends on what their personal situations are. Do they want to grow a family? Do they want to get a dog and they need more space or outdoor areas?
I think like with us, we've been in this long enough where it's kind of like the same old story where somebody has a 2 to 3 bedroom condo and they're getting engaged and a kid's on the way. It's usually like the same
Yeah.
story, and then they're moving up to that more of a forever home, either in the suburbs or in the city still. But I'm usually thinking about the financial implications of it, right? I feel like every conversation I have with anyone that is upsizing is always about, okay, how much equity do you have in the place? Should you rent it out? Do you want to be a landlord? Right? Like it's a lot of those types of questions. Are you getting that?
Yeah. And it's smart right now to be thinking about that because of where interest rates were 5 years ago when so many of these clients bought those initial 2 bed, 3 bed condos. So it's a really smart decision financially if they're able to, consider holding on to their home and renting it out. Not everybody can do that, but if they can, it's a really smart option.
I think the big question I always ask someone is, how much equity do you have in your place right now? And does that does that money, can that go further in a stock market or other investment properties, right? A lot of times we find people that, they put 20% down on a $450,000 condo, right? And now it's worth maybe 550, 600. So they've paid down, so they have, 250, 300,000 in equity, and they might be cash flowing 2 or 300 a month only after expenses and everything with renting it out. Is that worth it? Could you do a HELOC? Could you just take that money out and you don't have any capital gains tax on that if you're a married couple? If it's over 250,000, for a single person, you got the limit's up to 250, and then married is 500. I actually just saw that they're thinking about upping that for the first time since 1997.
Wow.
So it's about time, and they were going to tie it to inflation. So that's great news for people with their primary residence. But if you rent it out for a few years, and you haven't lived in it in 2 of the last 5 years now, well, now you're going to have capital gains tax, and it kind of takes out the profit you had over those few years
And the incentive.
Right. So unless you're going to keep it for a decade or more, I would say it probably makes more sense to just sell and take the equity. For most people, I think it makes sense to sell and take out the equity. And then for others, maybe you want to do a HELOC. I have an investment client doing that right now. They just take out a HELOC and they use that for other investment properties. I think you could do that strategy as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk about like when you were moving, because you have been in your place now for 5 years.
Yep.
You're in a single family home. You were in a condo in Logan Square, right?
It was a house, but
It was a house?
It was a house, but
Oh.
it was a smaller house.
Okay.
It was like our starter home, if
Yeah.
you will, in the city. So it was kind of our middle stepping stone. And we loved it, loved the area, so walkable. If it wasn't for what I do in real estate and the fact that I'm in my car all day long, I would never have had to get in my car. So we loved the area, parks everywhere, but we had one baby, then we had another baby, we had 2 dogs, and space was just getting tight.
Yeah.
My husband needed more working space in the house, which we then had to figure out what to do with him in the basement. And the need just became quite clear. Then the pandemic hit and the market went bananas. And we kind of looked at that as our opportunity. It's probably the right time. So
Where were you living before that house, though?
in Bucktown. We were in a 2-bed, 2-bath condo in Bucktown.
Okay, so
that was our starter condo
Right.
together. And then
So you moved up twice.
we moved up
Okay.
twice, but we held on to that condo and rented it out, which was a smart financial decision at the time.
Yeah.
But then when it came time to move into what is probably our forever Chicago home, we did end up selling our first condo. So we just wanted more space. We wanted more square footage overall. I wanted green space for the dogs and for the kids. And I realized pretty quickly that even though I was in the middle of Logan Square, in the middle of this amazing hub of restaurants and retail and all the fun things, our family needs had changed. Our whole dynamic had changed. We weren't going out at night the way that we were prior to having kids. So having that walkable amenity and that walking score be such a great draw for us for so long was no longer a draw. And so we knew that we were looking for a neighborhood that had neighborhood qualities. And we landed in Old Irving Park, and we love it.
You know what's funny? So you followed kind of like the trend that I notice, and it makes a lot of sense why, but everyone kind of goes from renting or purchasing a smaller 1 to 2 bedroom closer to downtown, and then they just gradually move out northwest along 9094.
Yeah, follow
right?
the blue line.
Yeah, follow the blue line. And we've all done that. I've gone I started in Wicker Park, Lakeview, very hot areas for, if you're
I lived
first moving
in
the
all
city.
of the.
You're in Bucktown, which is right.
I was in Lakeview, Lincoln Park, Gold Coast,
and then you
back
moved
to
a little bit further out to Logan. I
Yep.
moved a little bit further out. Well, we were in Lincoln Square or Lincoln Park. Moved a little bit further out to North Center. That's where we're at now, Roscoe Village. And now we're thinking even a little bit further. And
Yeah.
it makes sense. You get the walkability, right? You get, or you move to the suburbs.
Yeah.
That's all the way out.
Yeah.
But,
And we're not at that place like where we are now. And this is what I tell my clients, like, think about, I know it's hard because you're trying to look forward into the future and what you might want and need. But honestly, the neighborhood is what we were looking for. And everything else we can get to as quickly as we need. But try to think forward, even though you're in the moment buying your house right now. Let's try to think forward.
yeah.
I always, if I have a couple and they tell me that they want to have a family, then as I'm helping to show them homes, I put my kid goggles on. Hey, let's consider these stairs with strollers.
Yeah.
How big
That's
is your
common right now?
how big
hard.
is your living room?
Yeah.
Because if you don't have spare bedrooms or maybe a 2-level living space, like a duplex or a single family, where are all those toys going to go?
Right.
Do you want them in your living room?
Or even like railings along stairwells
yeah.
and whatnot. There was a design, I don't know, 5-10 years ago, where it was basically like a ladder for like new construction, and they're like, oh, we can't do this because kids are going to climb these.
Right.
And so we're always looking at those types of things as well. But I feel like the stroller thing is huge. I mean, in our place right now, our neighbor keeps it down in the lobby area, and we're fine with that. But
Yeah, that's common, but it's just something I'm always trying to think forward.
Yeah.
Assist with what their needs are in the now, but also how is this house going to suit you in 3 to 5 years? And so that's a big consideration when I'm working with families that are upsizing. And it's not always families though either.
Right.
Not everybody has to have kids just to get a bigger space.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of clients that I have that started in a 2-bed and they upsized to a 3-bed, and they just wanted a guest bedroom for their family and friends to come and stay with them, and then a dedicated office space. So, there's a lot of different, factors and different situations that everybody finds themselves in. But I think it's really just trying to get their needs met in the moment and also take into consideration what their life could look like in 3 to 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yeah.
with upsizing, we know 3 to 5 years is on the short end of that.
Right.
I've been in my home for 5 years. I cannot believe it's been 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like we just moved 2 years ago. So the time goes by so
I
quickly.
think that's a little bit of pandemic stuff too. Time flew by a little faster.
Yeah, the pandemic was weird. And yeah, we try to black some of that out, right? But
Yep.
I think about it, and honestly, there really isn't a whole lot else in the city that I could want out of our home. So I'm really happy that we landed where we did.
Mm-hmm.
There's modifications I would make, of course, but
No home is perfect.
no home is perfect. Would I love a mudroom? Yes. There's a lot of things, but it's really trying to make sure that when you're sitting down with your client, starting that home buying process is to really get their needs and wants analysis.
Yeah.
What do you need? What are the non-negotiables? And then what are your wants? And if we can make a list of 10 things, a wish list, and you can get 7 to 8 out of that list of 10, that's really good going.
Yeah.
If you're looking for 9 or 10, that perfect home, it doesn't exist, or your budget will have to increase.
There's a funny story I tell to clients. It was a coworker of my dad's that he built a custom home, right? New construction up in Minnesota, and built it to just how he wanted, right? He got transferred and decided to build it again, like similar style and everything to wherever he was transferred. Rebuilt it from ground up, but changed everything that he thought was wrong with it or things that annoyed him, right? He did all that, still was not happy with it, still not the perfect house. So even if you had multiple chances to make the perfect home, it's not going to happen. You're going to find something that's not, in line with what you want, or
Right.
things change. And a lot of those things that you may not like about a home become quirks that you grow to adore or live with, depending on how annoying they could be. But, people talk about these vintage homes and the squeaks in the floorboards, or, a little draftiness here or there. You can get those things fixed, but it gives a charm to the property that you're buying at the same time.
Right. I think, and this is cliche, but the location, that really is key.
Yeah.
Finding a home that you love in the area that you want to be in, from there you can modify.
Right.
Now, with condo buildings, you're going to have limitations, right? You can very rarely increase square footage in a condo building. But if we are talking about upsizing to single family homes, then let's get you where you want to be and then figure out how we can make changes to make this home even better.
Yeah. I think going back to what you said about, people wanting to upsize and not necessarily like having kids or whatnot, but the calmer lifestyles that different neighborhoods bring. And like I said, as we go kind of further out, you see more and more of that, to where you get to the suburbs and you have the yard and you have that different way of life. But yeah, I think that looking ahead and seeing like, okay, well, where are you going to be in 5 or 10 years? Can you live here for that amount of time, or do we need to be thinking even longer term? Like, do you want to move again in that amount of time? Our current place, I'm in a condo in Roscoe Village. We've been there also 5 years. We've been there in 2020. It was going to be probably a 3 to 5 year place, and we are looking to upsize right now. So we're going through this process. I know what the clients are going through right now, but we said, like, if it needed to be a 5 to 7 year place, or 7 to 10 year, it had the space, which was nice, because when you're looking at those wants and needs, I thought for sure I was going to be in Lincoln Park or Lakeview, right? Non-negotiable.
Yeah.
2-bedroom, maybe 3-bedroom, and the location was a deal breaker, as I thought. Once we started looking and just exploring some different areas, we saw this one in Roscoe Village. It was a 3-bed plus den and 3-bath, all more than we were expecting. Right? It's a duplex. It's a large space. So we're like, well, we can get all this space for $100,000 less than what we were looking at for 2 bedrooms in Lincoln Park. Right. So that was I think the
An
impetus
eye-opener,
for
yeah.
I mean, it was not a deal breaker for me. What was a deal breaker, which I realize I think is might be my only deal breaker, is outdoor space. Right, we have multiple decks on this place, which I love. I spend half the day outside if I can when it's
Yeah.
nice out.
Yep.
But Chicago, we have good weather for most of the year, I would say.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and think about, I mean, how many times have we sat down and had a buyer consultation? They tell us exactly where they want to be. We set up their search as closely as possible to fit all of their criteria because we want to make sure that we're encompassing everything that they want and not what they don't. And 2-3 months down the line, you get a message from your client, and all of a sudden they've searched 2 miles outside of their parameters, and now they're in a new neighborhood, and it surprised them. Sometimes it's the house. So, it's very, very common, and that does happen. But I think that also just staying in touch with them, even though you've got their search set up, it might be exactly what they are looking for. Touching base with them. Hey, has anything changed here? Hey, have you seen, some of these really great, houses in this neighborhood that this neighborhood is really turning over right now, and lots of development, or a new school just opened, or, anything along those lines. Staying in touch with them and doing these check-ins during the buying process is huge because more often than not, they probably will find something that isn't exactly what they thought they wanted to begin with. So it's all part of the process.
Yeah. I find that I tell people, let's not cast too wide of a net. At the beginning, I like to cast a wide net, right? Capture a lot of neighborhoods and whatnot, unless you're very specific on what you want. And sometimes they say, hey, I'm very specific on what I want. It might make it hard. And I'm like, actually, that makes it a lot easier.
Right.
Because then we know, okay, we need this, this, and this.
Like
and
a school boundary or
school boundary,
proximity to commuting or something along
price
those lines.
point and all those things. And so if we find that, if we see, hey, there's only 3 to 5 matches for all that right now,
we have to go
and you don't
bigger.
like it, and you don't like any of them, well, then we got to adjust something. Or if we're not seeing anything, which tends to happen if they're like, I want a 3-bedroom under 500,000 in Lincoln Park, let's say, and it's like you're not going to find it. Or just not going to be your style, right? Or high HOAs or something along those lines. Whatever it is. But if we're not seeing anything, then it's like, okay, we definitely need to adjust some criteria here. And usually that's going to be neighborhood. And I think that's the easiest one to adjust because there's a lot of different things to consider with neighborhoods throughout Chicago. I mean, yes, you want to be in the most popular neighborhoods, the things you like to do, but it's so connected through all the public transit, and just getting around is fairly easy that I think you can be
and just staying
open.
Open-minded. Until I started doing business in Old Irving Park, I never found myself that far north and west. I was never there. There was no need for me to be in that area. And it's a small little pocket. And as soon as I had clients that started looking around in that area, it really opened my eyes. Wow, this is suburbs in the city.
Yeah.
And
we're considering it.
Yeah. And when I grew up in a smaller town and always thought with my family that I wanted to emulate my childhood and that neighborhood experience and that high school experience and all of those things, and that I could only achieve that by going out to the suburbs.
Right.
And
that's funny that you want that, because that is not what I want.
I know. Well, and now these are our needs and wants are changing.
Yeah.
And so, finding our house where we did, it scratches all of those itches of the suburbs. The streets are wide, the trees are huge. The homes, they all differ in their architectural style.
Right.
Nothing is cookie cutter and uniform. Our neighbors are incredible. It is a community that we are getting to know more and more and more, and starting to become so connected to.
Yeah.
Whereby when some of our neighbors that move out, it's devastating. Should we move out too? No. We won't, but schools are a big draw, neighbors are a big draw, and things change. So, do I necessarily think our family will end up in the suburbs? I don't know, but as time goes on, I'm more and more comfortable staying with where we are, because it just checks so many boxes for what we want.
I mean, I think the funny thing too, and something to realize, that I don't know if a lot of people know this, but when you talk about the suburbs, right? Anything outside of Chicago considered a suburb, would you say? So Evanston, Oak Park, technically suburbs. Do they feel like it?
No.
No. It's very much like an in-between.
Urban. It's an urban, transition.
You know, the lot sizes are a little bit larger than Chicago. You do still have a lot of unique architecture, older buildings that, you know, have a lot of character to them. But as you go further out, you know, where I grew up, Wakanda, way out, hour outside the city, even there you're going to have some like older homes, but the new developments in some areas, you know, yeah, it's going to be more of that suburb feel. But I think that with some of the closer cities to Chicago, you can kind of get the best of both worlds. Like Old Irving Park feels a bit like that, right? Where it feels kind of like a Oak Park, Evanston vibe. Maybe not as much Evanston.
Yeah,
but
I mean, Sauganash.
Yeah, Sauganash is a great example.
Edgebrook. So many of these areas.
Park Ridge even.
Park Ridge.
Feel,
all of these areas that are just on the cusp of just barely leaving the city limits feel like you're in the suburbs, if that's what you want.
They all have different feels too. Like Schaumburg has more retail square footage than residential square footage, which is insane.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, Woodfield Mall is huge.
But
other than that, you know, they have IKEA out there. They have all the car dealerships and everything.
Is that what you want?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, is the traffic any better in the burbs than it is in the city?
Yeah.
Not really.
No.
And I would know. We're in our cars all day long,
Yes.
you know, so you just have to think about what you want. Is it schools for kids, right? Okay, that's legitimate. But what are the other things that you're getting out of the suburbs that you aren't getting in the city? So, you know, we've lived all over, primarily on the north side, right? But we really can speak to just about all of the locations. And
I mean, I grew up in you too. You grew up in Chicagoland your whole life. I mean, you were in Champaign for
I lived
a while.
in Champaign
but you still
through high school, and
you've spent half your life in Chicagoland.
I have spent nearly as much time in Chicago as I have in my hometown.
Okay. And I grew up in, like I said, Wakanda, but I've been in Chicagoland my whole life except for the 4 years I went to U of I in Champaign. So we're both familiar, you know, with this. I mean, and we've been in this industry for 15, 20 years now each. And so, yes, we know what the suburbs are giving us, you know, and giving our clients. And there's a lot. I mean, I think a lot of it is people have to drive around and get a feel for them because the suburbs can feel very different from one to the next.
Right. I mean, it's like Chicago. We have 77 neighborhoods, about to have 78. All of them have their own micro trends in terms of, you know, market activity, but they also have such different personalities.
I mean, even from street to street.
Exactly.
Like, it could change drastically. And I tell people this too, like, there is a big difference sometimes on one side of the street to the other.
Yeah.
Right? And it depends on which neighborhood that is. But there are people, we have clients all the time that say, I'm not going to go west of Ashland in Lakeview, right? Or north of Irving Park, or north of North Avenue, right? And it doesn't even matter because it goes the whole way, but it's just like, if that's where they want to be, you know, they have a hard boundary a lot of the times.
Yeah.
And, you know, and that's fine. That's understandable. But I thought I did too, but, you know.
Things change.
Yeah, things change. Now I'm west of Damon, which is fine. It's lovely.
Yeah.
You know, and we want to stay in Roscoe Village, but, you know.
I was west of Western. Wow.
But that's like not a big deal in certain areas, right?
No, I thought it was. And then
if you
and then all of a sudden,
Park or something, it's a big change.
And I thought it was a big deal. And as soon as I was west of Western, I loved it.
Right.
That's where my kids were born. Those are the parks that I made some of the first friends that I still have to this day, some of which are clients, which was great. But that's where everything kind of started. And I never thought I'd go west of Ashland. Then I never thought I would go west of Western.
Yeah.
And now I'm
the blue line.
Follow the blue line.